Hey everybody, welcome back to Halcyon Days, the estate sale journey and beyond. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing good, George. How you doing?
I am doing swell. This is our eighth episode. It's very exciting.
You're
All right, so on when did we record the last one? Friday? Last Friday?
mhm.
Today's Thursday, folks. Um, we recorded it. I did all the stuff to post it, and I forgot to actually post it. So I mean, I didn't forget. I actually just didn't click the actual publish thing for our audio part. And I did like saved it and all the stuff. It just takes some time. And I thought that I had posted it. And I went back to check the stats. So it got published on Sunday, which is where the one before that got published. But even with that, we got some good analytics. So I'm going to share them with you. We are at 86 downloads all time, but still awesome. We're up 158% over the last 30 days. And for our subscriptions, we're up 16%. And Texas is coming in strong right now with three listeners, I should say. I think it is four listeners. I lied. I'm looking at the map right now. Four listeners just out of Texas. Makes me a little uncomfortable with my Giants hoodie on, but that's all right. You got your Eagles hoodie on. You make bad choices. All right.
Always. It's the only way to live.
Making bad choices.
hmm hmm
All right, cool. I think we have an interesting topic today. I wanted to talk about pricing. As we grow our company and our business, we're gonna kind of find things that work and things that don't work and things like that. And uh and I think that there's enough in there. That's Josh's spoon for the coffee he's drinking, folks, because he's an adult and still leaves his spoon in his coffee cup.
It makes me feel powerful.
Okay. Whatever works. Good times. um See, I'm more of an adult. I don't leave my spoon in my coffee.
You don't drink coffee.
That's a valid point. No spoon, no coffee. My hot chocolate. Does that make me more of an adult?
It's definitely does not.
Whatever. All right. So we're gonna go down. We always have some stuff prepared, but we'll probably just drift off topic and things like that as we
As
progress.
always.
That's all
As
right.
always.
That's totally fine. So we're gonna talk about kind of pricing strategies for hosting estate sales. So again, this works if you're doing it yourself. But if you're a business and you're looking to figure out like how do we get the best pricing, that kind of stuff, we're gonna explore some of that today. All right. So understanding the traditional pricing models, you know, in a typical estate sale company or whatever, things are priced however you want to, research it and do all that other stuff, right? But in terms of what the estate sale company makes, it's typically a percentage, and that percentage. Uh, there might be a crime in the middle of the podcast, folks. Josh is lucky that he's not right next to me, but now he's blurry and he's fixing his camera for the audio team. Oh my, professional right here. That's what we are.
Why is it?
Okay, I don't know. So we have a majority of listeners rather than viewers on our YouTube channel. So for the listeners out there, Josh is putting his hand in front of the camera so that it focuses on his hand, and then it can regain the clarity of the image. So he was a little blurry. So sorry for our distraction. We're like shiny object kind of people. So, but as I was saying, so we go through. There's like a flat rate commission. There's percentage based commissions. There's hourly rates. Those are the standard traditional models. What do you think of those, Josh?
That's like talking about. That's not talking about like the prices at the sales, though, right? You're talking
No,
about like
that's our pricing model for our business, like
right,
how we price to clients.
right. Okay, yeah. Um, some of those, it's I guess which ones is like the mixed one because there's somewhere it's like a commission based
Percentage
plus
based commission.
yeah, but then like they still have a fee.
I'm not understanding what you're saying.
So there are some companies. I mean, I guess they're not necessarily a estate sale, but we've talked about it on the podcast before, like auction companies, right? Similar business model. They'll do a
Mhm.
commission very similar in line with our industry, 30, 40, sometimes 50%. And that they get that on top. But then they have on top of those commissions, they have additional fees, like they have an event fee. Sometimes they'll have staffing fees. That all comes out of the client's portion of the profits.
Correct. So I would say that that's all part of the commonly used pricing models, right? Depending on what you're doing. If you're including auction companies, so that would be one of those things. So
Okay.
for this, like if you go into the first one that we have here, so including flat rate commission, that's kind of what we do.
Yep.
Like we make
X
35%,
X percent.
whatever, no matter what we sell. And then they have a percentage based commission where you're talking about if you sell this amount, you make this percentage. If you sell this amount, you make that percentage, and it increases as you go, right? So or decreases depending on how you're structuring it. So like let's say we weren't sure we were going to have a great sale. We say, okay, if we sell $2,000 here because it's a small sale, we need 50%. If we sell $3,000, we'll take 40%. If we sell 4,000, maybe down to 35, whatever the case may be, right? With a minimum of 35%. Like we won't go probably lower than 35%, So we have to we have to know our worth and our value, and you don't see anybody taking less than 35%. Um,
Now, just so there's no confusion, just because like when you were explaining that, it sounds like that's part of how we negotiate. We don't negotiate price based commission. More like if we don't sell X amount of dollars, then we get X percentage. It's all we make that judgment based off the initial walkthrough and what we've seen at past sales of what would sell.
yep, that's why we do the flat rate. That flat rate. It's this percentage. We agree on a percentage, and that's it. Um, it's very simple for us, and I mean I understand the percentage based commission because there's times where I would wish that we would have done that. Where it's like, well, we've taken on these sales and they haven't been there's not been a lot there, and we talked about in the last podcast. We a lot of times um, we accept a client we do the client's sale when really it's probably not in terms of money making the best idea.
Because we're
But it
trying to
is.
break into a new area, trying to build some more customer base,
Mhm.
trying to build a partnership with, say, a realtor, right? And the realtor is the one who reached out to us, and we're trying to build so. Sometimes we'll jump on those grenades, even if it's not in the best interest of us. Um, it's just part of growing your business. You have to just decide. Like there were a couple sales where we turned down just because they would have been $1,000, $2,000 sale. Just they were small apartments, but they were 2 hours away from us,
Mhm.
and we could have done them. But one, we're not. Our goal is not to do business in that area, anyways. So to go out there for that amount of money would have just not been beneficial for us.
Yeah, it's very very rare that we turn something down, but that was one of them. Um, and I would say like in this process, no matter what you do, if you're a company who wants to do this and or you already are doing this, I would just say make sure you are very clear and transparent in all that you do. If you're doing a percentage based thing, um, I wouldn't like pretend that they're going to make more than they're going to make just so you can kind of set it up and be like, oh yeah, we're going to go this percentage, and that's like worst case scenario. Like explain to them the very real possibility of that being the scenario, and then working on improving from there. um, I think having the worst case scenario and being true and honest to them, I think that goes a long way for us. Our clients, even if it's not the news they necessarily want to hear, they
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the fact that we are being upfront and honest with them, and they don't want another company to come in, overinflate what's going to happen, and then get the check and be like, "This was nothing like what you said."
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, and that's still going to happen. Like I remember the one house, and we did a lot of money. but we took
Hmm.
a higher percentage because of the work. And at the end of it, the customer was mad because they felt like they deserved more than what they got. But I mean, we
Yep.
followed everything in our contract. We followed our, our commission cut. And even with the amount of money that we made on that sale, we lost money, we lost time, we lost business growth because it was over multiple weekends that we had to set up this house that
Over
we
a
did
month worth of weekends.
right that we weren't out building our business for a clientele that isn't one that we're going to do very often, if ever again.
Yeah. So Josh is referring to the hoarder house, which we've made reference to. That house. First of all, the amount of physical labor we had to do just to get things in a shoppable way,
State.
and yeah, and it wasn't done after the first set. Like we had to always be doing it, always move stuff, always cleaning stuff off, and 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 we had made an agreement very clear going into it that we didn't think that we could do it, but if you would like us to do it, we can't do it for the percentage we normally take. And then, we told him a percentage and he agreed on it. And then actually haggled 5% down before signing the contract, but it's okay. Um, we ended up we made some money, obviously. Like we wouldn't have done it if we couldn't make money off it. We made money off of it, but like to what Josh's point is, we didn't grow our business. So it was like a temporary gain because one, it's a hoarder house and we're not going to do very many of them. And the customer that shops that is a very different customer in whole. I mean, there's going to be some repeat customers, but it's a very different customer than the person who comes to typical estate sales.
Yeah.
People digging, making a pile, and getting a great deal is a lot different. Pardon me, is a lot different than actually, um,
Shopping in a normal estate sale.
yeah. We're not going to give you you know, a quarter of a garage, for like $50 at an estate sale. You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. But in this, with like the mission was to clear out as much stuff as we possibly could clear out. It
Yeah.
wasn't we didn't get top dollar for everything unless it was a high dollar item like the guns. So, but I
Yep.
mean that's all part of being transparent, I think.
Right. And I mean, so through that transparency, like when we took and got the guns appraised, like we recorded what they were appraised for and what they sold for.
Hmm.
And like, so we have like transparency like that. Like when on an upcoming estate sale, we're going to have like stamps and stuff. Like we're going to get all those stamps appraised, right? And then we're going to try to sell them for near or at the appraised price, right? Like we're not going to appraise them, say a stamp appraises for $1,000 and then sell it for two, right? Like we want the customer to know, like when we're dealing with high value items, we want them to know that we're getting as much money for them as possible because it benefits us, right? It doesn't benefit us long term to sell a high value item for less just to sell it.
Yeah, and that's what our customers would expect, and they come in. Would you take this Yadro piece for $1? And no, no, we won't.
We
Um,
had at the very one of the very next sales that we had after the hoarder house, we had repeat customers who ended up living in the area of the next house, and that was the mindset that they came in. Is just that they were going to get the same type of deals that they got at the hoarder house.
yeah,
Did you mean to play the music?
nope. I'm actually trying to get rid of the music. You can hear the music.
I did for a second.
I didn't hear.
I thought you were trying to play me off. Like I
Nope.
was talking too
You
long.
just for the listener again. Um, Josh's screen juddered a little bit, and I'm just stopping some stuff from playing so that it's not interfering with our connection. The audio is still good though, so but anyway, we should be good.
So we've done at our different estate sales, we've done different types of pricing. Where we've done one estate sale, we had the person just had so many clothes, and a lot of them it was an older lady. And she was the type of person that like she went to like a store and liked a specific pair of pants, so she bought 20 pairs of those pants, right? Or she liked a specific type of shirt, so she went to the store and bought like one of every color, right? So it was like one of those type of closets. She had two closets full of clothes. So for like that specific sale, we put all of the clothes in one room, and things that were hanging on hangers we had priced, and then things that were on tables and outside of the closet we had we had marked like fill a bag, or we had like shirts x amount of dollar regardless of what was on the table. Give me 1 second. Let me go deal with that.
Well, guys, I'll talk to you. Josh is in full on daddy mode right now, so that's his daughter that you hear in the background, which is fine. You know, we're real people and we've got, real lives that we try to fit this stuff in. It's a Thursday morning as we're recording this, so yeah, these things happen. And for the sale that he's talking about, the ones that were in the closet were actually all brand new with tags. They were never worn. You know, so having the different pricing was actually good. We did like a fill a bag for the table stuff, and then the pricing decent, still very good pricing for our customers. Pricing to move the other stuff, and they clearly saw value, in the brand new items, and there wasn't any negative feedback or any kind of conversation about like, hey, this is too expensive, or why is this here, why is that there, you know, or why are the prices different? None of that. It was totally normal. So, you know, there's that good stuff. All right, welcome back, Daddy.
Sorry.
That's all good. All right, moving along. So the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about on this is beyond just the like the pricing, like we just talked about. Um, I've been considering, or we've been considering, coming up with a maybe a different pricing structure for the different scenarios of why of like what percentage we take for the type of sale that we do. And it's been our experience that downsizing is there's fewer items, makes us less money. Um,
Not just
so
fewer items, but like fewer valuable items.
yeah, because they're taking, the if they have space where they're going, they're taking most of the valuable items and leaving some stuff behind. So we're gonna talk about the pros and the cons of differential pricing, in particular for downsizing, because I think we can keep, and downsizing is going to lump in all of the ones where it means like relocating. So basically, it's like loss and relocating, right? That would be the two, whatever. So downsizing falls into that. So the first pro for having that is for having a higher price for us, for the seller, um, for the estate sale company, is that smaller inventory, like we talked about. So when you have when you have an estate sale that they're downsizing, they're keeping their stuff. It means that there's way less stuff there. So when you have a full scale estate sale and everybody's coming in, and like for a loss, you're dealing with, you know lots of stuff everywhere, lots of customers coming in. When you have smaller inventory, there's less items to take pictures of, there's less to promote. There's it's just a tougher scenario for us as a seller to make any kind of money, which obviously, even though we love doing this and we love helping people, that if we don't make any money doing this, we can't continue to do this, you know.
Yeah. The number one reason for being in a business is to make money, right? So if you're not going to make money, the business structure isn't going to succeed, right? So, like that being said, um, when someone is down, I have no idea what's going on with my camera, guys. I apologize. I have a feeling my kids were probably playing Fortnite and knocked the camera and probably did something to like the optic, and that's
again
why it can't focus.
again for
Um,
our listeners, Josh's camera is not cooperating. It's a whole bunch of blur, and
Yeah.
and he keeps showing his hand to the camera to try to
So
make it work.
if you're watching on YouTube, it's probably for the best. You don't have to look at my face. So if you're listening on, wherever you listen to your podcast, sorry to say you still have to listen to my voice. But it is what it is. All right. So people who are downsizing, they are moving and they are able to take some or most of their stuff with them. So like that being said, like I have a very nice TV. If my wife and I separated and we moved, I already have it in my divorce will that I get the TV.
Divorce will.
Right? So like I'm taking my very expensive nice TV with me, right? Whereas if I died, at a company like Halcyon Days Estate Sales might be able to sell that TV for half, if not more, than the cost of what we bought it for, right? And try to recuperate some of those losses. It's just a different dynamic when people are downsizing and they're taking their items with them. But what we have found is sometimes, like when we go into a downsizing sale, there's sometimes it's just bare bones. It is all of the items that you don't want, right? And if you don't want them, there's a good chance that they're damaged, they're lower quality. Other people are going to feel the same way, and that's kind of the issue that we had with the last estate sale we had, where there was some nice vintage stuff, but the majority of what was left was the stuff that the gentleman couldn't or didn't want to bring with him to assisted living.
Yeah. So we by having the differential pricing where we charge more for this, it just allows us to one get rid of the inventory because we can charge less for it. Um, so like having the actual um Josh is throwing me for a loop here with him trying to fix his camera. Sorry. But it allows us to, kind of be fair to us and to the owner, helps them get rid of the stuff, all that good stuff. Now the next pro for it is like shorter timelines. So we can get in and out with an estate sale. That's a downsizing estate sale pretty quickly. Almost definitely a one weekend sale. You know, we don't need as much time to set up, so all that stuff is kind of helpful to us. Um, it helps us with the accelerated pace of downsizing. We factor in the urgency and time sensitivity of our clients, and then we jump on it and basically get it ready to go right away. Uh, we have one coming up in well, March, obviously, because this is going to be out in March. We have one coming up in March that is we're going to have we're going to try to be able to get in there maybe the Thursday the week before and do some damage in there and get it all set up. And but it's a very small sale, and it's a downsizing sale with our percentage was a little bit higher, not necessarily because of downsizing, but because there just wasn't enough to sell. But I think, you know, as we explore this topic, I think we might even want to go a little bit higher than that. You know, so
So the next topic, I don't really have anything else to add to shorter timelines. The next topic we're going to jump into is the demographic and specifically different client demographics. So obviously, different clients have different needs. There's always different expectations. There's different, financial constraints or time constraints, right? Um, so time constraints are some of the worst conditions to work in. A couple of reasons. One, more than likely during the sale, they're going to be there, right? From what we've seen, when someone has a shorter amount of time to get out of the house, they're still there. They're packing up while we're setting up. So we're in their way and they're in our way. Secondly, especially in a downsizing situation, they're in the process of moving, like I just said. Um, so it's always going to be at that type of sale, kind of the sales that we're talking about, specifically downsizing sales. Demographics, where the area is going to, I think that plays a little bit into demographic. Wouldn't you agree?
of course, yeah.
Right. So where the estate sale is at is going to greatly or negatively impact traffic, which will hurt the financial outcome. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have found houses that are on the outskirts of a major city in that area tend to do very well versus houses that are further away from a city. Right. or houses that are inside a city because there's just not enough space, right? Generally, the houses are smaller, so it makes it a little bit harder. And then traffic coming into the house is harder in the city because of parking. And then as well, like the clientele, right? When you get into the suburban area, you tend to get, a different type of clientele or customer base than you do in like a city where people might live in a city. Fact, right? Based
Yeah,
off of
for
what we've
sure.
seen.
Yeah, I would say inside the city, you have a more aggressive customer. You have a
Right.
customer that is like they want to buy, they want to get it cheap, and they have no problem telling you what's on their mind. Whereas in like the suburban area and rural areas, they are more cordial, and just as a whole, we have great people in the city and we have angry people in the rural communities. So, but just kind of like city people are, I think they're just very time aware and they want to get things done, and they don't have a lot of time to waste. Like that's the mentality. Everything is gonna go, go, go. Whereas like the rural and suburban areas are more
Relaxed.
slowed down and relaxed. Yeah. So for
Yep.
sure.
I think another issue that comes up with clientele is going to be how many people you're dealing with, right? So when you're dealing with one or two people, say it's a spouse, it's two spouses, or it's a spouse and child, right? Like say ex parent dies, you're dealing with spouse, living spouse and oldest child, right? Like those tend to be the easier clients to deal with than the clients where both parents are dead or both parents are unable to make certain decisions, so you're dealing with the kids and then the kids have to all communicate, and one day you're dealing with this kid and then the next day you're dealing with the middle child, like, and it makes communication hard. And it, especially if there's like what you feel like a power grab for, like what items can't be sold, what items, one child might want more for one item. It just becomes this very complicated uh situation. We experienced that with one of our first sales, where like every decision, the father had dementia, the mother, wasn't in a good mental state. So the children, and I think there was four of them, were making decisions, and two of them lived out of state, right? So we had to wait for communication back from the other two children
Hmm.
before we could do anything.
Yeah, and it
Uh,
was mostly email,
yeah,
so that was fun. Like the slowest form of communication. Uh, so
at least in today's standards.
yeah, yeah, it wasn't Pony Express, but it was slow enough though. All right, and then specialized expertise would be another pro. So like when we've got estate sales that are downsizing, and we come into this, and because because we have to really be good at what we're doing to maximize the amount of money, like it warrants us getting paid a little bit more. So in a full estate sale, you're making lots of money off of lots of little things, and the money adds up, and
Mm-hmm.
you're not necessarily counting on this one piece getting you this much money or this one, like, because you're hoping that as the whole, for the whole estate sale, you make the money.
Yeah.
This, you have to capitalize on each one, so we have to be experts. We have to have expertise to maximize the value. So we have to be able to research. We have to be able to network with experts in this stuff. We have to be able to do the things that it requires us to make more money. So
Mm-hmm.
ha- having that expertise creates value for our client, and it creates, you know I don't know, I don't value in us, as a company, that we're worth more, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. So doing this in a short period of time, getting the most out of what we can get, it makes sense for them to say, yes, we're willing to pay you more money for these circumstances. And so I think that's what the, like,
Yeah.
and we're building our own expertise, let alone our network of things. So like as we do stuff, as we grow this stuff, you know when you say, like, you mentioned about it, in the last podcast, about you learned about Pyrex, right?
Yep.
Like as we go through the estate sales, we learn more and more, because we always come across something new, something different that we haven't seen before, and we got to figure out how to find the value. and we got to do it in a downsizing scenario where there's nothing left.
Yeah, I mean to like add on to that. So like both of us are, I would say, specialized experts in different areas, right? Like so you have uh better, you were a reseller for almost 2 years, right? So you gained a level of expertise that I just didn't have, right? About a vast knowledge about different like Pyrex, right? Like you wouldn't have known that if you weren't a reseller,
Correct.
right? So you look at things through a different lens than sometimes I do, where I see value somewhere, and like when we were talking about like the gun sale, right? Like I was able to see the value there. But then because of our expertise as an estate sale company, we also see things through the same lens. Like we know a
Excuse me.
cup isn't going to sell more than $5,
No.
right? Unless it is like a special cup, right? A
Yeah.
standard coffee cup isn't going to sell more than $5 at the average estate sale, right? But like you might walk into a sale where it's a collectible cup, right? And like based off of our expertise, like we would know what that collectible might look like. What's part of a set, or a signed collectible from a sports person, pop entertainment. Um, Expertise does play a role into estate sales, and you can't just have a blanket knowledge. You have to gain knowledge of what is selling, because people will take advantage of that. People will come in, and if you don't know, they will underbuy. They'll buy it for less than it's worth
Oh yeah.
significantly, and you will lose money, right? And I think that's one of the things that plays so well into our partnership, is because we we balance each other out in those aspects.
Yeah. I mean, I've done that as a reseller. I've gone in there and been like, "Holy crap! It's how much? Okay, cool." You know.
Don't even have to
Not.
negotiate sometimes.
I mean, I went to a house that had they were having a yard sale. It wasn't an estate sale. They were having a yard sale, and they had an entire nativity set of blow molds. And I didn't negotiate 1 cent down. It was so cheap that what they were offering, I was like, oh, that would be very nice in my yard. And I bought them all,
And
and
sold
I
them.
sold them for over $500. Um, and if I would have held on to them a little bit longer, I could have sold them for more. But it was definitely worth it. I probably made $480 on them. I think I only
Oh
got them for
wow,
like $20. Yeah,
wow, that's
the whole
crazy.
set. It was like a 9 piece set. Yeah,
Yep.
so good stuff.
All right, well, let's move on to some client expectations and satisfaction.
Let's do that.
I think this can be tricky because we have dealt with both realistic and unrealistic customers, right? So, in the very first estate sales we had clients, we've talked about them earlier on this episode alone, where we were dealing with the siblings. And the parents both still alive. They were going through some problems. They were downsizing, moving closer to the kids because they needed more like hands-on care. And they paid probably a lot of money for the items that were in their house, right? However, they gave us we had 5 days to set up. Right, we started on maybe it was six. We had 6 days to start setting up, but they were also still in the house, so that cut into the time that we had, and they gave us a lot of price restrictions. And the price restrictions were very, very high. Like they had like a cabinet in their like entry hallway that they didn't want to let go for like less than $3,000, because they paid a lot of money for it, and they found it online on a website that was overinflated in terms of like what things actually sell for. So expectations can become a very tricky, hard to deal with navigation aspect. If your client has unrealistic expectations of what their items can sell for.
Yeah, and then for our aspect of that, like setting the expectation, I think that's why like exploring different pricing structures for downsizing would something like the fluctuating scale for a downsizing thing that would be where it would make sense. So if we did let's say in like the upcoming sale that we have, if we did do like that tiered pricing structure, you know, that would make a lot of sense and be beneficial to us because one, if we got to more, that would be good for both of us, you know. But as it is right now, we have it I think at 40%, which is not high. It's just a little higher than what our typical sale is, and really, I mean, honestly, this is my fault. Like one of my weaknesses, I would say. It's just like I'm a sap, man. Like the lady's got tears in her eyes, you know. Not about my money, not about our charge, but just like,
Letting
and
things
I
go. It's
and I
hard.
and I I didn't like I didn't want her to feel like I was taking advantage of her, and I felt bad, and it's tough. But realistically, this house is not going to net us very much money, you know, even at 40%. But you know, it's one of
Yeah,
those things. If we had a pricing structure, if we had it where we said, okay, if we sell $2,000 or less, we're going to take 50%. If we sell more, we lower our percentage. You know, if we had that worked into it, then maybe like I would probably feel better because then if we had a good sale out of it, if things sold for more than what we thought they would or whatever, or if everything sold,
yeah,
you know, then we wouldn't feel so bad about, like, I wouldn't feel like I just took her, you know. So
yeah.
that's
So I mean, here's what I'll say. I mean, so we've met with several like we've so many clients, right? And I don't think anyone has ever once thought this is for you like that you've take been trying to take advantage of them.
yeah,
I think the sincerity that you have when you are with clients is part of our brand, right? There's a reason like why we decided to go into business together, and part of our dynamic is your personality, right? It gives us a very like I come across as very robotic. You know this. You've coached me on it when we were worked together at Best Buy. Like I've had to work on like my facial expressions. I've had to work on like lifting my voice up and down so I don't sound like a robot. But you're very personable. So like customers see that they've latched onto that and they're like with you in terms of like knowing that you're not trying to take advantage of them.
hmm
And then um that has really helped our brand as a company and as we've grown. Where we land anytime I'd say like we have like a 95% close rate. Where if we go to the house and we put in like a bid, like we meet with the client, we put in a bid for the house, like to like do this to do the sale, we close about 95% of the time.
yeah,
Right?
maybe even 100% of the time.
Right. Especially like that number definitely goes up when we both go to the house and they see our dynamic and they see us walk the house together and interact with each other.
hmm
Whereas a company that, only cares about money, they don't have that personality. Um, that's one of the things that we build into our brand is caring for the client and caring for the customer. Um, so the tiered thing for me, it gives the client satisfaction, like that we are going to do our best because either way, we need to make money,
Yeah,
right? Like that's why we're coming in. Like we're not doing something for charity, we're doing something to make money. So what a lot of people don't realize is it's 40 plus hours sometimes to set up for a sale,
easy.
right? Like we get in there sometimes, and that's like that can sometimes just be George, right? Like that sometimes is just George doing his setup. Like sometimes I can only go help set up for a day or two, depending on when we get access to the house, because of my schedule. And my kids are younger, so like sometimes I have to bring my child to the house, and sometimes it's not safe to do so. Or if there people are in the house, like I don't want my 4 year old running around the house. So whenever we're setting up for a house, we're losing money, right? We're not making any money during that time. We're not networking. We're not going out building our brand. We're not closing other customers, right? Like we are, it's like a dead stop, right? We're prepping to make money, but we're not actively doing anything to build our business. And that's an expectation that we set with the customer is, like is part of like during the setup process and stuff like that. But the tiered thing benefits us that if there's just no money to be made, we still walk away with a profit.
Yeah.
Because there's no worse feeling in the world when we go and we spend 40 plus hours in a house and lose money.
Yep, that's frustrating.
I know you've felt that probably a lot more than I have,
No, I
especially.
mean, like I'm I'm obviously all in, but like this, it's an emotional thing sometimes because like you want to give it everything that you can give it, and then um we're like our it's more our area. They're just not super aware of estate sales. Like we're in, it's a good growth potential for us because as awareness is created, there's more opportunity for us and more opportunity for us, and we have less competitors than like even just in Maryland where there's a whole bunch of estate sale companies. Um, and our last sale was closer to Maryland, so we
A
had
lot
quite
of
a
estate
few.
sale customers from
Yeah,
Maryland.
we had a few of those customers come in, so now they know us, and maybe they'll venture up a little bit, and see what we do. So, but yeah. All right. Now, obviously, with pros, there's cons, right? So let's talk about the cons of potentially having a variable or changing our price structure specifically to downsizing. Um, you can start with the first one.
Confusion and complexity. So it can, especially when dealing with clients who are older, it can be a very confusing time, right? Um, Especially if they get things backwards in terms of how our pricing works, right? One, we'd have to be more meticulous in the record keeping, um, to like make sure we know when we cross certain thresh points of when we like get more or less commission. So there's the confusion for us, and then the reminder, like if they think, oh, they'll focus in on the lower percentage, right? You said 35%.
Hmm.
And then there's the awkward conversation of like, yes, that's if we made X dollars, which we didn't, so we're taking 40% or 45%.
Hmm.
I think
Yeah,
that's something that we would run into a lot just based off interactions we've had with clients.
yeah, and I think that it can also give them like a bad taste in their mouth where it might create some distrust because of like how we talked about being transparent with everything. It doesn't feel like they have a good sense of like what we're going to be able to get out of the sale. It's almost like somebody having like a safety net, and they always talk about like you're never going to achieve your goal if you've got the safety net. Like you just got to let go of it and and go after it kind of thing.
Yeah,
It almost feels like that. Like if we're like, okay, well, we don't have to do much because we'll make money if we do a little.
yeah. I think the other, like, this would be like a back end issue, but like we would have to be more meticulous with how we ring things out through a point of sale. So like right now, when you're selling items at a house, there's just so much to sell. If you only have say 5 days to get a sale set up, right? There's not a way to categorize inventory, specifically price every item, right? So sometimes there will be a lot of items in the house that will just be like make a pile, right? Like make a pile, make an offer, right? And in a situation where the less we make, the more we take, we would have to make sure that we are documenting everything that we sold, right? So instead of it being like, 5 items for $10, right? Like we might have to like this cup's 50 cents, this cup's 50 cents, this shirt's $4, this pan is $2, right? Like so that the customer when they request like, okay, so then like what did you sell X items for? Like they have that on the back end. They can see what we're selling items for, so they don't feel like we've taken advantage of them. But then the downside there is then how much longer does it take for us to set something like that up? How much
Yeah,
longer does it take for us to bring a customer out?
yeah. I don't know. I don't know if we would need to go that way, but I get what you're saying though. Like it would give them like kind of comfort at the end of the sale, like to see every transaction, but. but we can give them the printout. Like we can give them a report, but it just won't have detailed. Like it won't have detailed items, which we can't. Which I mean, in part of the setting up, and part of the pitch for us, there has to be clarity and stuff like that with them anyway, because there's no way we can have like we can't inventory their whole house and put it into our computer system. It's not really possible to do that. We're not, they're not a warehouse, and we don't have like barcodes for, like specific. It just doesn't work. Um, so I think that it would just have to be like, this is how we do it, and they need to know that ahead of time.
Yeah, I just so from a logistical standpoint though, like that would be like a complication that I feel like we would run into,
Yeah, probably.
which I think is one of our topics that I might have jumped ahead to. So I apologize.
No, it's okay. It's. I mean, they're all gonna blend together anyway. All right. So for perceived unfairness, they might think that we're being unfair with our pricing, and that we might that we're charging more for doing less work. You know, so like, again, if we come into this house and we sell just a couple of the big items, and we make $1,000, but we're at 60% or some crazy number, you know, then it's like they got what they wanted and that was it. So like it's like we weren't being fair to them. It's their items, which I think we actually take that into consideration in our overall pricing normally. So I think, if this was something that we do, we have to use kind of what you said earlier, talk about everything that goes into the sale. It's not
Yeah,
just the day of the sale. You're not paying just for the day of the sale. You're not paying just like, you're paying for us to completely set it up, to do all the research, to spend all the time, which 40 hours would be generous. I think it's a lot more than 40 hours with the amount of time that I spend researching the items,
after the
putting
sale, marketing.
all of that stuff. I might spend close to 40 hours in the house, but it's all the stuff that I do afterwards and at 10 o'clock at night. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of time that goes into marketing these
Making,
estate
yeah,
sales, and making it so that we get some customers to come in and buy their stuff. So I think just that would be kind of like to try to get rid of this perceived unfairness.
yeah. I would say it's personally, I would say it's like the opposite, right? Like I would say like the perceived unfairness would be that they would feel like we're underselling items for less than what it's worth, so that we get a bigger cut.
Yeah, I mean, but we would have to explain, like, if it was a tiered system anyway, right? Like it would benefit us more to sell more, because we're like, there's going to be that overlap where, yeah, like we make more money by selling less, but then it catches back up and then we make more money by selling more. You know what I mean? So like, we would have to kind of, even if we came up with those exact numbers, be like, this is, if we make this much money, if we sell this much, this is our percentage, and it would take us to get to this dollar amount for us to make up more money. It'd be tough. It'd be tough. That's why this is a con. I mean, you started talking about logistics. Do you want to go into any more detail about that?
Um, no, I think I kind of like covered like the logistical side of it. Potential cons we would have to start implementing if we did go this route. I don't really see any other logistical cons.
Yeah.
Do,
No,
do
I
you?
mean, no, I think that pretty much locks it up. I mean, we don't have. It wouldn't be very difficult logistically speaking at the end, because we would have our thresholds there, and as soon as we knew we made that in revenue, we know what percentage we're taking. So it's not like we're taking the percentage first, then taking a different percentage later, then taking a different, from for like each variation. It's this or this. So it's not like we got to do some kind of weird math.
No, that's
You
true.
know.
That's true. I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah. So.
But they might be thinking that because I mean, so one of the things that has happened, especially if the clients are still involved, is they will check in with us at the end of each day of a sale to see like how the sale went. Like they will ask for an
Hmm.
update, right? So like that might be something like that is a recurrent conversation in a tiered system. It's like, okay, so like if you guys sell nothing else, you're taking this amount.
Yeah. hopefully at the end of the day, when we have another day, the conversation is not about if we sell nothing else. I'm hoping,
Well, I
but
mean, we've had clients that were very much of that type of personality.
yeah, yeah,
If this was the system that we were running,
yeah. So the next one would be inequitable treatment, which is kind of like the unfair, but I guess it would be like, oh, you had a sale for my friends and you only charge them 35%. How come you're charging us 45%? That kind of thing. And they feel like they can feel like we didn't treat them
with
with
the
the
same.
same equity as somebody else. So that could definitely be a con that we'd have to work pretty hard to make sure that we're very clear about why the pricing is what the pricing is. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that necessarily being that specific scenario being an issue. I would see it more as like people accusing us of targeting specific clients so that we could make more money, like accusing us of that aspect. Like, oh, they only do downsizing so they can take more money.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Interesting. Yeah, I think again it all comes back to the whole transparency and clarity from the beginning. Like I mean, if we give them dollar amounts, like if you sell $1,000 and we're taking 50%, we're only coming away with $500. That is not a cost benefit for us. Us
Yeah,
making $500 is not going to be something that benefits us as a company, and we can't live on that. We can't
yeah.
grow on that. So
I'm thinking more of our like business relationships where we get referred customers from like a business partner, like a realtor or something
sure,
like that, like them getting that mindset. Like,
yeah,
oh, they only take X type of clients because they can charge X percentage. When I give them this type of customer, they almost never take it.
yeah. Which is, I mean, we talked about at the beginning. We take almost everything right now, so hopefully we don't have that. You know, we could have passed on the next client, but there's some stuff there, and they're leaving more than what I thought, so that's good, and hopefully we get some sales out of it. You know, we're going to be selling things like even like a chairlift. So like
Oh
there's
wow.
some dollar amounts, like higher dollar amount stuff in there. So um fully functional because I saw her use it. She was there when I did the walkthrough. But and then you kind of touched on this too. Like the next one is market perception. So one with our like our partners, our business, our vendor partners, or whatever you want to call it, right? The people who we work with to help grow each other's business. You know, if we give a negative perception, but just like if our client feels like this was kind of crappy and they regret doing it because of the small percentage that they got, they could talk poorly about estate sales in general and say that they're not worth it, you know,
Okay.
without the understanding of like again, it's that's why it's perception, right? So everybody's perception is their reality, and if we don't explain it and have it make sense to them where they feel good about it and comfortable about it, then they can come away with a bad taste in their mouth about estate sales in general and just think that they're like a scam, and then start telling people that, and that would might hurt the market that we're trying to create here.
So there's that, right? Or you can take us further, like that leaves a bad taste in them and their mouth, so they leave us a bad review, right?
Yeah, that would
So
be bad.
then other customers who are coming to us have a false perception because a customer may not have been realistic with what they had, and walked away dissatisfied, right? We do a pretty good job with transparency on that, right? Like, so we'll talk about like the $3,000 hutch, right? So like day one, we had it marked $3,000, right? And I had very real conversation, like, hey, we had this priced at the price that you told us. Not one customer looked at it, right? Like,
Matter of fact, it actually put a for our customer, not our client, it put them in a situation like, wow, this place charges a lot of money.
It was
Like
one of the
I don't
first
want
things
to
they saw.
shop with them, So like we literally, I mean, I'm not gonna throw a homeowner under the bus or anything, but I'm gonna say there are a lot of items here that the owner said that this is the threshold. Like we couldn't go below this. There's other items that we've got in the house that we've got more freedom. You check them out, like that kind of thing. But like I always made clear that when it looked like our reputation was about to get hurt from that, because we you cannot be an estate sale company that overcharges.
No.
Not if you want to have repeat customers. You just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, talk about like that's customer perception, right? Like not just like client perception, but customer perception. Like they walk in, and you have basic coffee cups for $10 a cup, right? And you can get them for $5 in a store, right? Like you're expecting to pay $3, maybe four if it has a design, right? Five if it has your favorite sports team or your favorite Star Wars action figure on the cup or whatever. Um, so there's like the customer perception. But I had to have that that conversation with the client, and so we marked it down to 1,200, right, which is still a lot. But day two, we had people at least looking at it, right, and then day three we marked it down to I think 300 or 400, and we almost sold it, but I don't I think even at 800 it was still too much for realistically like it like the cabinet was it was designed to hold the old tube TV style like a 30-inch tube TV, right? So there's not a lot of use for that in today's age where no one has tube TVs.
No, and that was also the one that she saw on the website Cherish, which if anybody's looking out there to price their items, that's not the site. Let me just tell you. That is an overinflated, insane amount of money that I don't even know how they're in business. Really, it's not the site that you want to say that this is what your thing is worth. Um, but that's just a side note of that sale. All right. I don't think we need to include the bottom there. So, do you have anything more that you want to say? Because we're kind of hitting our limit here with time, I think.
Yeah, I'm good. I think we've covered it. So let me ask you this:
Yeah.
we've discussed the pros and the cons. Is this something that you think you'd want to implement in our business strategy or business model?
I think I need to give it more thought, but I do think that it's something that we need to at least consider. Just if we want our business to continue to grow, right? And it's taking these downsizing sales with very little to sell is obviously not the successful business model to grow our business. you know Being great to the client and being the people that'll do it when other people won't, that helps our brand. That is something that is good for us in terms of like advertising, especially if they talk about it. But as a whole, that doesn't go anywhere if we're not getting larger sales. So I think we're probably going to have to do that, but we got to come up with the right way to do it.
Yeah,
Excuse me.
I agree. I think it's definitely something that like I'd want to discuss with some of our like realtor partners that we've partnered with in the past to get their input on it. Because a lot of times they're dealing directly with the client on our behalf, and I think they'd be able to give us some really good feedback on if it's something that we should try to implement if they feel like that would be a positive or a negative for us.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm
I'm all
definitely
about
not
the
opposed
feedback.
to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we have a very valuable connection with Delinda, who's been on the show. I appreciate her feedback, and she always gives honest feedback. She always looks for honest feedback from us. So um, I'll definitely run it by her. She's at the Pennsylvania Farm Show today. I don't know if it's
Mm,
the whole weekend, but she's there today, and so by the time somebody hears us, it'll be over. But she's kind of advertising us. We sponsored a gift card promo there, which was pretty cool. So um, and she's gonna have like our flyers there. She's gonna have blown up business card with the QR codes in there, that kind of stuff.
nice.
So yeah, so that'll be cool. Hopefully we'll drum up some business with that. But I appreciate her feedback, and she's always honest. Sometimes it's not feedback that I want to hear. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that's okay. It helps us. So
Yeah, and if you're watching us on YouTube, leave a comment below. Like, what do you think about this type of pricing structure? Do you think it's a good idea to try? You think have you experienced this before? Like, what was your success? What was your failures? We'd love your guys' feedback as well.
absolutely. And those of you listening, I'll put in the little description box like our email address again, and then feel free to send us a comment that way. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
I do apologize for everyone, all my technical difficulties. But if you're watching on YouTube and you've had to deal with my blurry face, I apologize. It'll be better next week.
I think you actually should say you're welcome.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're welcome. I did you a favor. Don't forget that. It won't happen again.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. Check us out. Like us, subscribe anywhere you're watching or listening to our podcast. We will see you guys next week.
All right. Peace out.
Cub Scout.